The entire contents of this podcast and website are based upon the opinions of Tammy Garcia and her guests, unless otherwise noted. The information on this podcast is not intended to replace a one-on-one relationship with a qualified healthcare professional and is not intended as medical advice. It is intended as a sharing of knowledge and information from the research and experience of Tammy Garcia and her guests. This is the Naturally Inspired Podcast, coming to you from our 1890 homestead in Johnstown, Colorado. I'm Tammy, and I want to thank you for joining us. Let's get started and help people feel good so they can do what they love for longer. Today on the Naturally Inspired Podcast, Rustin Hughes is joining us. Rustin is an adaptive athlete. His company is Be Bold, an organization that helps people live without limits. Rustin shares his story with us about how he overcame adversity and continues to overcome adversity. One thing that he said on the podcast that really stood out to me was he said he was more disabled with his thinking when he had two legs than he is now with one leg. And that was so profound, how he has taken adversity and switched it into a strength. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the Naturally Inspired Podcast with Rustin Hughes. Thank you so much for being on the Naturally Inspired Podcast today. I really appreciate you agreeing to be on here, and I can't wait to share your story with everyone. We always like to... Oh, yeah. I'm totally honored to have you here, and I can't wait to share your story. I want to get... our audience to get to know you a little bit. So first off, where were you born, Rustin?
North Platte, Nebraska.
Farmers?
Yep. Say again?
Were you farmers?
Nope. No, we grew up in town. Yeah. My dad had a farm. His family had a farm about 2.5 hours away in the sand hills that we would go back and we would work on every now and again. But yeah, we lived in it was a smaller town, but in Nebraska, I think we were the 4th largest, city.
Okay.
So small but big, kind of, like we had everything that you needed.
Right. How many siblings do you have?
I have a sister and a brother, both younger.
Okay. So there's 3 of you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what was family life like? Were you guys pretty active, or, what did you guys like to do? Did you camp? Did you hunt? Did you fish?
Yep.
All of the above?
We wrestled, played football. We camped, fished, hunted, we did, just everything. We lived kind of, I think we're about like a half mile from the South Platte River. At the time we were growing up, there was a huge field, there was a sand pit before you got to the river. So we spent a lot of our time, down there with a fishing pole and, just spending a lot of outdoor time for sure.
Yeah. That was kind of your family vibe. Definitely play outside, stay active.
My mom, she would yell like when the lights came on. Yeah. And we would run pretty quick because we didn't want her yelling too much. Because she would just yell.
Yeah, I think that's like a rule. How old are you, Rustin?
I'm 45.
45. So I'm 44. And I think everyone around our age group, that was kind of the rule of thumb. Like you just went home when the street lights came on. Otherwise you got screamed at.
Yeah. You heard yelling, especially my mom's voice, like you knew. She was yelling.
And so you mentioned that you were a wrestler. How long? You were a pretty serious wrestler?
I wrestled. I think I started in 3rd or 4th grade, and then we did a lot of freestyle wrestling, which is like Olympic wrestling.
Okay.
That's what they wrestle like in the Olympics. It's just a different type of point system. And then, I was in high school, graduated, went to the Army.
Oh, right
I
out of high
wrestled.
school?
Yep. Yeah.
Wow. So 18 and off to the Army?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I'm glad I had all that kind of wrestling background, because what basic training was like is a hard wrestling practice for a long time. But
Really?
yeah, it's just the mental part. I mean, everything's mental. That's
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned is everything's mental. And um, basic training was, I mean, physically it wasn't that hard. It's just you had someone yelling at you while you're
Right.
doing it. Not really used to.
Right.
But yeah, everything's. A drill sergeant. He would say it's mind over matter. He's like, I don't mind because you don't matter. And
That's a little different than what I am.
uh, so when he would say that, it'd make me mad. And I was just like, you know
Right.
what? Like, you don't matter. That's one thing I would think in my head is like, you don't matter. None of this matters. This is
Right.
all. It's initiation is all that it is.
Right.
We just got to get through this initiation. Oh God, I used to get so mad when he would say that, but and I would just turn it back onto him, like in my head. Oh yeah, it was and it was 4 months because my job was I was an M1 A1 tanker.
Okay.
We were on the tanks, and so and I don't know if they still do it this way, but they combined basic training and our schooling together. So it was 4 months
Wow.
together with the same drill sergeant, with the same people in your platoon,
Right.
which it was just, it would definitely test your patience.
Right.
Definitely
Early to
test your
rise and
patience.
early to bed. Is that how it was, or were you staying up late?
Oh yeah, it was early to rise. I mean, I can't remember what time we'd get up. We had tea super early. I mean, we all had, like we got into a routine after a while, but then, uh, yeah, it was just, I mean, we didn't have TV or, like we didn't have cell phones at that time. So,
Right.
or really computers or anything like that. So that stuff didn't really matter.
Right.
It was just trying to get along with everybody. I mean, you watch those reality shows, and that's what it was like. Is like you take your all over the country, all walks of life, and throwing them into a stressful situation, and then
Right.
seeing how everyone reacts to it.
That's a big part of life, eh? Is just dealing with people.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of times it's just like, it's you learn how to deal with different people in different ways.
Right.
Definitely can't deal everyone the same way.
Right. Can't paint everybody with the same brush.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're an amputee. You lost a leg. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened and when that happened?
Yep. It happened a little over 5 years ago. Um, I have, I was a mixed martial arts fighter.
Yeah.
Did jujitsu, did all that stuff. And I had a pain in my leg, and I thought it was a pinched nerve is what I thought it was.
Okay.
And it just consistently got worse and worse. Um, and I had a Alaskan Malamute at the time that needed to be walked on a daily basis.
Oh yeah.
And our walks declined in our distance. I just couldn't walk as far.
Right.
Um, and so eventually it got to this point of where we were at Red Rocks and I can't walk. Pretty much I can't walk.
Wow.
And we're actually trying to go to our seats. The beginning of the show's getting ready to happen, and we're going to our seats, and I can't really make it there. And I thought that was very odd.
Yeah. Considering
It
how,
was,
well conditioned you are and an athlete and everything.
and it was just, it felt like my leg was just super heavy. Like
Hmm.
there was weight in it, like concrete in it.
Wow.
And It was even worse after the show. I thought that going downhill would help out because, you're up top and we're going down, and
Yeah.
nothing. It was even worse. The next day, we're at a farmer's market, me and my girlfriend, who's my wife now.
Yeah.
We're at this farmer's market, and I was just like, I can't walk. And so she was able to get me in the car, and we went to the VA in Denver.
Right.
And they did an ultrasound, and they were just like, you have got a very large blood clot in your femoral artery.
Wow.
And like, none of that's really made sense to me, what that meant.
Right.
And the doctor was pretty much, so they're getting like all this stuff ready, because from my understanding, the clot was pretty much the entire thigh, from my groin to my knee is where in that femoral artery was
Yep.
pretty much blocked. And they're getting me ready to go to ICU, and the doctor is telling me that I'm probably going to go through an amputation and be on blood thinners for the rest of my life. Oh yeah, it's just all this, because like I'm hearing like what he's saying, and it's just
Yeah.
I'm trying to process everything, and so they're wheeling me away, and so I'm in ICU, and they're actually trying to bust they think that they can bust through this clot.
Okay.
And so like what they had to do is they had to like go in through the artery on my other side, and then come across my abdomen, and then try to, I think the first thing that they did is they put like a clot buster, like a drip on it.
Okay.
I was a plumber by trade before, so I try to relate everything with this like by plumbing terminology. It's like so
We got pipes. I
foot,
can relate.
yeah, Drano in there first, and the Drano wasn't working, so they come in and they're going to do like a rotor rooter type deal,
Right.
and that didn't work. So they wanted to do it the following day after I'd been on all these IV blood thinners and stuff like that. So they came back in that second day, and they were trying to even be a little, I think, more aggressive with it.
Yeah.
And which I woke up as they're pulling something out of my groin, and it felt like, I remember like my eyes opened up, like you wake up, and then so they had to hurry up and bring over some more something to knock me out quick.
Right. Drugs.
And then I woke up, and they're just like, listen, we can't bust through that. We're just going to, you're going to stay here for a couple more days. Here's, we're going to put you on blood thinners, and we're going to give you some oxycodone, and we're going to set up an appointment for a vascular surgeon in about 30 days.
Wow.
We'll talk to you then. So, again, like my girlfriend and I were just at 1 year in our relationship, going through this process, and it was just very it just seemed like I was in a dream.
Yeah.
You're
sitting at Red Rocks, 1 minute, and then the next minute you're getting all this information that you may lose your leg.
Yeah.
Like it just changed in an instant.
Oh, it was, yeah. I mean, it was like nothing, like I'm hearing everything that they're saying, and all the words are like, I can hear these words, but it's just like, it does not make sense.
Yeah.
And so I think I go back to Nebraska and stay with my parents after I get out of the hospital. Just it's me and my wife Britta. We just needed kind of separate and think about things. Cause again, we're at that 1 year point of our relationship. And it was just
Yeah.
kind of like we needed to decide what we're going to go with this, because this is kind of serious stuff and it's going to take it's just I mean, it was very just, we didn't really know what it looked like,
Of
and just
course.
needed some time to
Of course.
clear our heads,
I want to back up a
kind of.
little bit too, because before you lost your leg, you mentioned, so you were in the Army for a while, you got out of the Army, and then before you lost your leg, you actually had been through a 10-year battle with your wife, right? Your first wife?
Yeah. Yep. Brandy. She had brain cancer. Yeah, she went through uh, 4 craniotomies,
Right.
where they removed the tumor in different times, and I can't remember how many chemo and radiation sessions that she had.
Right.
So yeah, she was very
Quite a fighter from what I've read.
yeah, she was.
Yeah, a tremendous fighter. And you were her caretaker throughout that whole time, as I understand it. You were taking care of her. And so you got out of high school, you went into the Army, you fought there, and then you got out of the Army and you married Brandy and were faced with another challenge with her health. You took care of her for 10 years and you ended up losing her. And then you find yourself now losing your leg. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as you've moved through this process, you've had an incredible ability to persevere. And that's what I wanted to talk to you today about on the Naturally Inspired podcast, because I think in today's world, it's we're really focused on instant gratification, and we're really focused on, we want things now. And we can learn from your story. We can learn from your story because you got dealt the shittiest hand of cards and you've turned it into something so special. And so that's what I hope to be able to share with our listeners today as we move through this interview. So,
Yeah.
you got through all that. You're at your parents' place, and you and Britta, which is your new wife, your now wife, but at the time was only your girlfriend. Shout out to
Yeah.
Britta.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
She's a
been amazing.
superstar. She's an amazing superstar.
Yeah.
So what was that period kind of like when you were at your parents? You had the leg, you had lost the leg by this point, right?
Actually, I haven't.
Oh, you were still trying to break through the clot? Okay.
Yep. And so after they couldn't, I had 30 days before I met with my vascular surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm in some pain with where that clot is, because what they also said was our body kind of would respond to this and make collateral vessels, just kind of way that if you dam up a river, the same way that what happens that they come up with these little collaterals that come,
Okay.
but all of my vessels in my right leg were clotting. So there was no blood that was going down at all.
Oh, so the
And
bottom
so,
part of your leg was probably dying, right?
yeah. Yeah. I stubbed my toe and it started that's where things, like I was, well, for one, I'm on they gave me a lot of oxycodone, like they just,
Hammered ya.
I mean, they gave, yeah. And it was just like, I could request as much as I wanted. And, I had a dog at that time, and my main, like, all I really had to do for the day was exercise him, and I couldn't walk, so I just took him to the dog park. And
Right.
uh, and then after I got done with that, I'd just come home and just take, I mean, it started off with like 2 oxycodone, and then it was 3, and then it was 4, and then, I'm on 5 because I can't
Right.
get to sleep. And then, well, now I'm going to take, it was getting bad. I was abusing, and it was like,
Right. It's
I
hard
had,
not to,
I,
though. Hard not
well,
to.
and I had nothing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do. And it was just, I was just, I was numbing myself.
Right.
Um,
So what happened to the point that came to the point where they decided, okay, we're going to amputate, and you had to make that decision and accept that decision?
no one ever had come up with that kind of conclusion. It was never brought, like, when I was
Okay.
in, so now I'm going back, I'm talking to the vascular surgeons. I'm like, I don't want to try to be trying not to do all this stuff with a opiate addiction.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, and I think that they were kind of waiting for me to make that decision.
I see.
I think that's what it was boiling down to. And then I kind of think then they were like, well, we don't necessarily have to do the amputation. We could do a bypass. And I'm just like, I don't want to mess around. Like, um, again, being a plumber, I seen where the clot was, how to bypass that. And I was just like, that's a very long area
Right.
to bypass. And if the bypass failed, they said I would have to instantly become an above the knee amputee. And then so when I first went in, it was the end of August. I can't remember the date. It was like the 22nd. For my first amputation, it was a below the knee.
Okay.
That's what we came up with, is that, all right, we're going to do this below the knee amputation.
Okay.
And so they did it. And then 2 weeks later was my 40th birthday. And my parents came out, and my family, my sister's from, she lives in Iowa, her whole family, they came. We did my 40th birthday up in Estes, and I did not know that elevation change. And because
Oh
I still had,
God. I would never
oh,
have
it
thought of
was,
that.
no one did. And
Yeah.
so I was in the most excruciating pain. None of the pain meds that I had were even touching it. I go to the ER. They don't really even want to touch me because they're looking at me, like stitches. I'm
And
a
this has been a
VA
long
patient.
process. This has been a long
Oh,
process for you. I can imagine. Yeah.
and it was also over Labor Day weekend, because my birthday's September 4th. So
Yeah.
now going back to the VA, the surgeon comes in. He buries one of those Q-tips into the incision,
Yeah.
and it's like, we need to get you into surgery. And unfortunately, I was on blood thinners, so there was a week protocol that you have to wean yourself off of blood thinners. So
Oh,
it just so September 11th, 2014, they go in and they're talking that, listen, we're gonna clean that whole thing out, but we may have to amputate above the knee. And if we do, do you want us to wake you up to tell you?
I
And
just,
I was like, no, like,
yeah.
please don't wake up to tell me. And I wasn't really expecting, honestly, like, I'm thinking they're just going to go clean everything out and then maybe take, maybe it was going to be, I don't know what's the word that they use, but maybe they'd still take some of it, but it wouldn't be above the knee yet, that they'd still.
There'd be something there.
So, I remember I woke up and there was no nurses around me, and I look under the sheet, and, it was just very, again, surreal, like, because what was so funny is that, while I was in the hospital through the first amputation, everyone's like, oh, you're a below the knee. You'll just be back to doing all your stuff. It's a good thing you're below the knee.
Right.
like, so when you lose that knee joint, that's when it really starts to suck, and I'm just
Oh,
like,
jeez.
yeah. And so some of these same nurses that I had, now they're like, hey, weren't you in here? Yeah, I was in here a couple weeks ago, below knee guy. Now I'm above the knee.
Oh,
I
man.
I was after that, I was at a very low spot because I was just like, I was evaluating just everything that had happened in my life in the last like 3 years. And I was just like, you have
I
got to be
bet.
kidding me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
You've got to be
and,
kidding
and
me.
I'm down,
Like
and I'm
unreal.
down in, I don't even know anybody in Denver. My parents are in Nebraska. My girlfriend is up in Fort Collins. So it's not like, I had, like a lot of people that I could see all the time, or, like, it was
Yeah.
just,
It's a
there
big
was a lot of,
support system, keeping your
well,
spirits up.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. They were there over the phone, FaceTime. Britta would come on the weekends. My friends would get there when they could.
Yeah.
But, like after you go like through some stuff like that, you're just like, so I would try to entertain myself I had a wheelchair and I was able to go. I had a routine, like first thing in the morning, I would just go and I would hit pretty much all the hallways. And I got pretty fast on my, and then I started clocking myself and then even like keeping track of how many miles I could get in on my wheelchair.
Yeah.
And so, you just kind of make do with what you got. And like, so yeah, I would get into it like, I started just doing one floor and then I started doing 2 floors.
Right.
And then you start doing all these other types of floors, and even to a part where you don't even have to get into the elevator anymore. You can start going all the way around the whole
Right.
hospital, inside,
One thing,
outside.
one thing I'm noticing about you, is that you're taking time out throughout this process to kind of reflect. Not everybody does that. So, even when they were giving you the opiates, you had a question in your mind about that, right? That wasn't sitting well with you, right? You started thinking,
So,
I don't like this,
so
right?
yeah,
And
it
then,
wasn't
so
me.
it was not you, right? And you
Yeah.
kind of like, you're not going to wear that label of being an opiate addict, right? And then you go through this process of the amputation, and it's kind of like, you said you had a little bit of a low point there, but was it long? Did you have a long low point before you started racing the hallways
Well,
in the wheelchair?
well, right about that time too, the VA has, I believe it was called rec sports. And in rec sports, they have adaptive and I'm probably messing this all up. I met this person that was in there, and I had talked about how, and again, what was crazy about all this stuff, it was kind of a pipe dream. I'm just talking about to drive from Fort Collins to Omaha for Brandy's. She did all of her medical stuff at the University of Nebraska Omaha Med Center
When she was getting
and
cancer
so,
treatment?
yeah.
Okay.
And so when we lived in Fort Collins, and then we would drive when things got bad, or just sometimes it was her. It depended on what month that we were. If we're doing 3 months, 6 month,
Right.
Brain scans and stuff. But we would drive from Fort Omaha a lot.
Right.
And then, so as I'm in the hospital, I was like, how many amputees have ever rode a bike from like, at that time, it started with Denver to Omaha. And then so we started with this idea, and I got this bike from a friend, and then so I'm like taking time, like how much time, or like I get with this apps and all this stuff. Like I'm not a cyclist by any means. I've never cycled or
This
anything.
while you're still in the hospital?
I'm thinking it up. Well, I'm thinking it up at this time.
Okay.
And then, so after I do get out, I get the cycle.
Okay.
and so we come up with this idea. We're gonna, like go from Denver to Omaha, and I have to go through a process of meeting these different people that have these nonprofits.
Okay.
And at that time, I was, I'm a veteran,
Yeah.
but I lose my leg in combat.
Right.
But a lot of times when people see me, they automatically assume
Yep.
that my story's already planned out in their head.
Yeah,
When they
I bet. I bet.
and um,
That's so important
so
that we ask questions, eh?
well, and I've had so many people approach me with so many different things. It just blows me away, like what people will say to somebody. And
I bet.
well, I mean, like one of the last ones that really, the guy came up to me and intoxicated, and he was just like, and he taps me on the shoulder, and we were face to face because I'm eating at this point, and he's like, if you lost your leg in Afghanistan by stepping on a landmine, I'm gonna buy you a drink. And I look at him, and I was just like, what if I didn't? And he's like, are you gonna buy me a drink? And he's like, no. And I was just like,
Oh my God.
I was just like, I can't even walk up to somebody and say something like that, It's just,
Yeah. Crazy.
but it's one thing I've learned too is like I have to be very patient, and I found that the adults act more immature than the kids do, like
because kids are honest, right? They're not hiding anything, or they're not
well,
trying.
and that's what I know, and that's one thing I really appreciate is like they're trying to understand it.
Yeah.
Like I went and did a talk at a preschool, and I got to talk to 3 preschool classes and then 1 kindergarten class.
Cool.
And so we got to meet each other, and then we kind of gradually went into this where I even took my leg off.
Cool.
And they got to see me with my leg off. And it was really cool, like their questions that they have, and
I
like
bet.
just like you could just see that little wheel turning in their head. And they realize it's not so scary either.
That's
and
right.
I associate it with like like a robot leg or Star Wars.
Yeah.
And they all kind of, it's either the robot or Star Wars that they, they're like, yeah, that's what it does look like that. And I was able to bring in my running blade, and that's, like a whole nother type of leg too that they're able to see and how I put it on. And
Yeah.
it was a really cool process to be a part of that.
Yeah. Awesome to demystify it for kids, because that's what you're
It
doing.
was, well, and what was funny is that as they started their class, they were talking about what's your favorite machine. They must have been talking about machines before, and they're talking about simple machines and what was the other one? Simple machines and complex machines. And then you have to say like, what's one of your favorite machine? And some of them were saying they like robot legs, like their favorite machines, robot legs.
That's awesome.
Like they're kind of looking at me out of the corner of their eye too. And it was just really, it was cool to be in that setting with them, because not make it so awkward.
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing, right? Like it doesn't need to be awkward. And the more questions that we ask and the more, information that we gather about things and people's stories, the more we can benefit from it, and it becomes all so much less awkward.
Well,
right?
And also to think that after going through all this stuff that I've been through, that like I was probably more disabled when I had 2 legs, and which, well, it was, my disability was more like between my ears a lot of the times. I think that sometimes after you go through a series of events like I had gone through, you get to a point where it's like none of this stuff really affects me the way that, like, I tell people that stuff that didn't matter before matter now, and stuff,
Right.
and vice.
Yep.
And so I'm at this point where, you know, Brandy was 36, and you know,
It's
a
horrible
blink
to
of the eye.
watch. Yeah, it's horrible to watch someone die from cancer. I was with my mom as she withered away from lung cancer, and it is absolutely awful to watch somebody who was robust and vibrant and just wither away. And that was a 10-year process for you. So I can imagine. I can only imagine how painful that must be.
And I think that, you know, like, I needed to see her strength, because she she was a firecracker, you know, like uh, she was, you know, she just had that's where Be Bold came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had that, it was on her license plates when she was in high school.
Oh, very cool.
That,
So her struggle lasted 10 years. Was she given 10 years from the get-go? Can you tell me a little bit about her story?
so, well, yeah, so she went, her family does a golf tournament every year, for her grandpa. They did one. And she was back. She was living in Chicago. Actually, we were broke up at the time. We were living in Fort Collins. It didn't work out. This is right after I got out of the Army, you know, and
Okay.
I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then I moved to Fort Collins with one of my friends and his girlfriend, and she followed. It it didn't work out. You know, we were pretty young. We were
Yeah.
still, I mean, I had just out of the Army. I was still partying. We're all partying, and just what we weren't into a relationship where we're like living together in the same house.
Right.
Um, so she actually went back and graduated from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and then she moved to Chicago, and she came back for that golf tournament. And then I get a phone call, you know, just out of the blue, and it was Brandy saying that, you know, that she had a seizure on the golf course,
Oh,
and that
wow.
they were taking her to Omaha, and that they found a tumor, and they want to do a biopsy of it. They didn't really know a lot at that time,
Right.
and so I was living in Fort Collins, and I um, drove back to Nebraska, and we hung out that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had surgery that Monday. And then after she had her first surgery, she moved back to Nebraska to live with her mom
Yeah.
in Kearney, Nebraska. And I would drive back on like the week. I was a plumber at the time, so I worked Monday through Friday, and then on Fridays I would drive to Kearney and then stay there till Sunday, and then drive back. So we got married in 2003, and then right after that, she had, I believe, she needed the surgery before, but we were having this wedding, and they were just like, "Don't say anything. Wait till she comes back from the honeymoon." And then we're gonna have to go in, and they're gonna have to do another surgery. So, and so we had this surgery. I mean, we were looking 30 days after we got married. Her, you know,
Wow.
going in. So then, and again, I can't remember the whole timeline of it, but then because what would happen is everything would be good, and then it would get bad, and then
Right.
everything then they'd come up with something, and then it would get good, and then it would get bad, and then
Right.
you know we went through. everything. We went through everything that you could possibly think of, that they were doing at that time.
Right. And as she's going through this process, you mentioned, she kind of taught you about strength. What was it that she was demonstrating to you that you've been able to take away?
Um, she was just very strong, strong-willed.
Mm-hmm.
She had a very strong personality.
Yeah.
And, it was just like, I remember laying in that hospital bed and thinking about everything that she had gone through.
Right.
And, like, I was like, this is just a leg.
Right.
It's like, this is just a leg. It's not that big of a deal. And then what's even crazier is, like, I've done more stuff with one leg than I ever thought about, doing with two legs. And that's what's
Right.
so crazy is at that time thought that I was probably going to be done,
Right.
you know?
But your life just was getting started.
Exactly. And it's, like, I had the choice to do this.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of times, you give that choice to 100 people. I don't know how many people are going to take it with the amputation, because they think that I'm going to be disabled if I lose my leg.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be crippled if I lose my leg.
A label. They buy into the label.
And it was just like, what I've learned is that a bad attitude is a disability. Is
Yes.
that's very disabling to people. A horrible attitude, and I see bad attitudes all the time, and it pisses me off.
Yep, and it should.
It just is just like, there's so many times I just want to yell at people.
Yeah.
Like, you are given 24 fucking hours in this day.
Yep.
Enjoy them.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's right.
And it's just like, I don't know. It's like, you've got
It's a weird perspective, eh? Like, I mean, it can be, you think about it because it's so stark, but I feel the same way when I'm a runner and, you don't want to go out and run every day. It's hard, it's hard, but I use you for inspiration. So I'll pull up your Instagram and I'll just check out one of your workouts. And I'm like, okay, this guy has one leg. What's my fucking excuse? Right? And then I'm on my way.
What's been so crazy through this is, having the one leg has been, like, if you would have known me as a plumber, like, I'm an introvert by nature, like, that's, I to talk, going through all this stuff, it's been an amazing experience. I've become a completely different person, for the good, which I think that, it definitely could have gone a whole nother way.
Oh, the statistics show it should have.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what's so important about your story, and that you need to share with other people, because it hasn't gone the statistical way. You've turned this thing right upside down, and you're getting after it every single day. Every single day you're getting after it. And so we need to know how you're doing that, because some of the obstacles that we face every day don't even compare to what you've been through. They don't, they don't even compare. And
Yeah.
when we can get that contrast, it helps people, it gives people the confidence to push through and do what they need to do.
Have like a reason why that you want to do something.
Yeah.
Brandy's memory a lot. I don't want to disrespect her memory. And, she lived to be 36 years old. That's, it's a blink of the eye.
Oh
And I
yeah.
need to live even more so. It's just like, we don't have a lot of time on this planet, and we need to take advantage of every moment that we have, and it's like, and there's learning lessons in everything that I've learned is like, sometimes you have to weather a storm to appreciate the sunshine.
Yep.
And if you've never been through a storm, then how can you really appreciate the sun?
That's right.
And so it's one of those things too, where you, like, I've been able, like, these times that we've had here lately, I've loved it. I've been able to, I wake up like super early in the morning, and then I make my coffee, I get my dog. What am I going to do for today?
Yep.
I come up with a little plan. Sometimes it doesn't work out as planned, but
Right.
we as a family are knocking out a lot of stuff here at our house that we haven't been able to do. So we have this opportunity. We've been able to do stuff together. We've been able to do stuff on our own, which is good too, because I think that we need, as you're stuck in a house, you need to learn how to social distance in the house sometimes, because
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Somebody's breathing too loud. That's what's going on over here sometimes.
Who's got the remote? Why do you always get the remote?
Yeah.
There's always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just taking advantage of these times and being able to reflect, and enjoy it. Like the sun is
Yeah.
out today. It's a
Yes.
beautiful day. Like
Yes.
being
Yep.
able to enjoy that, and being with family, being with loved ones, your support system. It's just this again. I think it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
This
So
time that we
I
have.
love that you mentioned the fact that, you still get annoyed, right? Like you still get annoyed. You've
Oh
turned all
yeah.
this stuff around, turned all this stuff around, and you're working through this journey that you're on, and you've tried to make the best out of everything. And I think, sometimes people get annoyed with like, oh, everything is just so great, it's just, and you're so positive and bleh, I just want to puke, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, like motivational speakers or whatever. And that's not what you're saying here. And that's not the message that we want to get through. It's like success isn't linear, right? It doesn't go
No.
like step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, now all of a sudden I've got this great, thing going. That it's more like today I'm awesome, tomorrow I suck. Right? Like,
Well, it's just
and
surviving, waking up every day, and just like, all right, how am I going to survive today?
yeah,
And it's,
one day at a time.
yep. And quit. One thing that I've learned is not to worry about the future,
Yeah.
because I can't control that.
Yep.
You become anxious.
Yep.
Don't worry about the past.
Yep.
You become depressed. Be in the moment and try to appreciate like the now. And don't get me wrong, it's something I constantly have to work on
Oh yeah, me
uh,
too.
for all the time. But
Yep.
it's something I try to be conscious of, is like, just try to enjoy this moment that we're in right now, and don't worry about tomorrow, because like um like walking across the street, you could get hit by a car, or a meteor could hit you, or whatever. You may not
Yeah.
wake up in the morning, so quit worrying about tomorrow, because you may not. Who cares about tomorrow, or who cares about, like, I don't know, just focus on right now, and what we've got right now. And
Right.
I think that we're all pretty fortunate, like um we've got running water, we got
Yes.
food.
Yes.
It's We are all very fortunate to live uh, in these times, and like, even though that we are stuck inside, it's
Right. Absolutely. Like perspective, right? You got to keep everything in perspective, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Do you have a plan or a method that you use when your thoughts start going in the shitter? You know, when you start, you wake
Um,
up, you have a bad, you're thinking, okay, I'm getting on the train of this day is going to turn to shit if I don't turn it around. Do you have a plan for that?
um, a lot of my day, it's around working out in one way or another, and I feel that if I feel that like my day is for whatever reason going bad, I tend to work out more or just focus on coming up with a workout or something like that where it's like um because again I
You
think
find
it
like
happens
physicality is a huge part for you,
well
just,
because it allows me to be creative, so it's this
interesting.
mental part of it and then the physical part of it, and then a lot of it too is like I wonder if I can do that with one leg. Like a lot of this stuff is I sit there and I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't have to adapt. I can do it the same way. Or, it's like
Right.
everything's a challenge to me now too, which
Right.
I sometimes is good and sometimes is bad because, you get into where everything shouldn't be a challenge. But um, I think it's just switching that mindset. I tell myself it could be worse. Like
Yeah.
if I'm whining or moping around or something, it's like, shut up. Like, are you serious? Like, it could be worse.
Right.
And I try to just flip it from there because um, I understand that it's natural to you can sit there and feel mopey or whatever, but let's not stay there. Like
Yeah.
um,
Dwell in
let's
it.
not make it a permanent kind of. Yeah. It's like let's go through the feelings of whatever we need to feel in that time or whatever, but let's get out.
Right.
Like let's get out. Let's put our energy into better things. Like
Right.
because you can put a lot of energy into just moping around.
For sure. Sometimes just getting moving too. Like I know I can wake up grumpy or whatever, kitchen's a disaster. I just gotta get out for a run and get
Yeah.
out of here and then come back with a new perspective.
Yep. It's like a restart in a sense, or I
Yeah.
just need a restart.
Yeah.
Um, and
Can you think of like,
that's always been.
sorry, go ahead.
As you said, mine's been the gym. Like going to the gym and
Yep.
doing my jujitsu classes, and then now trying to find that new way to do that.
Yeah. I want to
Like,
talk about that for sure. So, you grew up wrestling and stuff, and then you were practicing jujitsu. Did jujitsu have anything to do with the clot in your leg?
I never did like jujitsu until after I lost my leg.
Oh, okay.
I did a lot of no gi stuff because like I was an amateur fighter,
Yeah.
um, and so I was living in Nebraska at the time, and so it's a lot different than Colorado. Like we didn't really have um,
This level of
like
training.
yeah, and
Yeah.
gym.
Like the level here in Colorado is crazy.
Yeah, we had. I was actually a 3-stripe white belt from a Gracie school in Loveland. And when I got to Kearney, Nebraska, they were all like, well, we're going to make you the assistant coach. And I'm just like, I'm a 3-stripe white belt. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
But one thing that was good is I knew it was basics. I knew all the basics. And that's all we really was the basics of um, jujitsu to translate over to MMA.
Right.
Uh, and then I did a little bit of no gi after I lost my leg, and then realized that not having the leg is an advantage.
Hmm.
And then getting I had a guy at the gym. He was just like, if you want to get better at no gi, you need to start doing gi classes. And I looked at him and I was like, that's stupid. Like, but then I kept thinking about it. And I was like, well, it gives me more time. And so I just started going in and
Right.
doing gi class. And from that, I mean, I love jiu-jitsu so much. It's helped me so much. Just again, like we were talking about having a bad day, you can go, and then what I think I love about it the most is, like my prosthetic leg that I have is a very expensive prosthetic leg,
Okay.
but I get to set it on the wall, and I get to go out on the mat with my own body,
Right.
and I get to go out there and submit people, and get into positions and submissions that people don't even know how to get out of because they've never, been in that position before because
Right.
My coach or Ryan, Coach Ryan, when I first started doing all this stuff, he was just like, I don't know how you're going to do this, but what you need to do is you need to take, like your disadvantages and make them your advantages, like figure a way out to do it. He's like, I don't know how you're going to do that, but that's probably what you need to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as soon as he told me that, it was like this light bulb went off, and like I've named it. It's called Nub Jitsu. And,
I saw that on your Facebook. That's awesome.
It's my version of jiu-jitsu. It's something that I've been able to create. And again, it goes back to, you losing a leg. Not too many people think about getting into the gym right after that, and I have a lot of people reach out to me about how do you do that? What, like, I've lost my leg. I'm an amputee, and like, how do I get into the gym? And it's just got to get through the front door.
Yeah, you just got to go.
That's the biggest thing. You just got to walk through the front. Yep. Like, I can't tell you. I mean, there's no secret spell or anything. Like, you just got to go.
Yeah. I love how Ryan said that to you, because like he was honest. I don't know how you're going to do it, but we're going to be here. So like, we'll figure it out as we go. And so how important is, how important is having that community for you?
Oh, it's huge. The whole gym. I mean, as soon as you walk in that place, I mean, it's like Cheers. Without the the beer,
the booze.
It's like everybody knows everybody, and everyone wants to help everyone get better, and not only in the gym, just even outside the gym, like they support each other in all aspects of life, and it's very hard to find people like that in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do find like that group of people, it's I don't know. It's very unique and it's very special.
Yeah. And I think it can be, I mean, I know it's hard to find people in your community, but when you have a passion for something, you can go and find people that you can connect with on that passion.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it doesn't even have to be jiu-jitsu for everyone, but if you're passionate about music, like music can be the same thing for someone else that jiu-jitsu is for you. But the point is that you have a community.
Yep.
Right. Oh, and how important that is to, especially when you're, going through trials and things like that. Having a community is a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, because Ryan says it all the time. No one makes it to the top on their own. It's just like it takes everybody to be a part of. It's an awesome place to go.
Yeah. And we should say too, because I don't think we've said, it's Trials is a martial arts MMA gym in Fort Collins, Colorado. And Ryan Schultz is the owner with Jared, right? They co-own it together.
Yeah.
And they have several programs running out of the gym. And one of them is yours, the Be Bold, which is your nonprofit organization.
Yep. We changed Be Bold. So it was a nonprofit, but we switched that over to an LLC now, but with the same mission. But yeah, to go there on any given day, you've got people that are from the ages of 4 to 84 that are
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And that's
I
what,
love their Rock Steady program where they're helping people through Parkinson's. It's amazing.
that's an amazing program. It's, they inspire me, you know, like we go and we have these, I think we just did I can't remember. We just had, I think, our third year anniversary. I can't remember exactly which it was, but I remember like when we first started off, we had 3 people that were there. And, you know,
Wow.
like now it's one of the biggest classes that we have. And to see these guys and ladies are there too. We have
Right.
ladies that have Parkinson's. We also have, we allow them to bring in their corner man or corner woman to kind of help out their wife.
Cool.
We've learned too with the Be Bold is that the person with the disability isn't the only one that's going through the disability. You know, the whole house
Oh, that's
goes
interesting
through it.
perspective. Yeah.
So let's let everyone be a part of this. You know, like let's bring this disabling thing, like let's bring it, let's have it bring the family together in a
Mm-hmm.
way. You know, like we've got guys that started and they've lost weight, they've reduced medication,
Yeah.
they've increased their exercising when they're not there. You know, it's just like it's
Wow.
so cool to see
Right.
all these things happen because they decided to come in to a gym probably at their lowest point, you know, or pretty close, you know,
Yeah.
with a diagnosis of Parkinson's and um, you know, and just coming in and again community,
Yep.
having that community and realizing they're not the only person that's going through it, and they can help each other out, and it's just awesome to be in the same room as those guys.
Yeah. You have a kind of a saying that you help people to live without limits. So what does that mean to you when you say you want to help people live without limits?
Well, I think that um, you know, like when we were growing up and you were told you can do anything you put your mind to, that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of just this cliche saying that was
Totally.
kind of just tossed around.
Yep.
Um, but until you're in a position where you have to really utilize that, and then, you know, there are a lot of times uh, like during when I was learning how to walk,
Yeah.
that process right there, I really realized that you know, I can do anything I put my mind to at this point. And then from that, all right, how are we going to expand off of that? Okay, where's my limits? I don't want to have any limits. Like, let's take this as far as I can.
Right.
And like, I don't know, you know, like, uh, I think a lot of times when people see me, I don't have a leg and then I do something, they just can't, you know, they can't believe that I did that. And it's just like, you know, there's times I'm at the grocery store and I have people that come up, oh, you're such an inspiration. And I'm like, I'm at the grocery store. Like, what are you talking about? You
You
know,
should
like,
see what I do on the mat.
well, it's just, yeah, it's like, this doesn't make me any type of inspiration. You know, like, and one thing too that I had heard this before is like, if you like, don't say that I'm an inspiration and just leave that. Do something with that. If you find what I'm doing as an inspiration, do something with it.
Yeah.
Go try to, and then be an inspiration for somebody else. You know, like go do something that inspires somebody to go do something.
Right.
Um,
Right. Because our stories are, I mean, our stories are so important. And that's what, inspires our telling our story inspires other people to create their own story and go and move forward in their own story. One
yep.
thing, do you know Ido Portal? The MMA master of movement is kind of who he is known as. Do you know him at all?
Um, I don't think I have heard him.
Okay, so I listened to him on a podcast the other day, and he was talking about
What's him?
it's Ido Portal.
I don't think I have.
So I guess he trained with McGregor for a while, and he's trained with a couple other MMA people. But he was such an interesting interview. I'll have to send it to you because I think you'll love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
He talked about how, we're never the master of anything, how that there's only another level of learning. That's it. So we're constantly just moving, we're growing, but we're moving to the next level, and that you should never think that you're the mastered anything. And I love that, because that kind of just changes the perspective, doesn't it? Because now it's really all about being the best student that we can be.
Yep.
Right?
Forever.
Because forever a student, right? And there's good students and there's bad students, right? I'm sure you've probably met a bad student before. They kind of suck.
Yeah.
Right? They think they know it all. They think they know it all. I've got it. I'm the master of this. And I just love the way he put it, because, then it becomes on you. You're now responsible to become the best student, the best listener, right? Be interested, not interesting.
And I've learned too that you can learn from everybody.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's learning what not to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to always be about what to do. Sometimes it's learning about what not to do.
Right.
That's why, you can always learn from every single person. It doesn't matter like who they are, what they are. There's always something that you can learn. And it's,
especially if you don't assume, right? Like you were talking about some of the crazy things people say to you because they're assuming.
Well, and that's another thing too. Like when we are grappling, I'm not wearing my leg, and they look that they assume the side where my leg is gone is going to be the weaker side. So everyone wants to pass to that side, but I armbar them right away because I have my leg on the other side.
Right.
And it's something where it's just like, for me, I think it's just so mentally, physically, and like spiritually, it's the whole package. It's like this guy from Washington, D.C. got a hold of me and asked me if I could meet in L.A. to do this tournament. And so we all met up in L.A. and it was just like, from there, it just started this connection of all these other. So I met all these other para athletes that were there and realized that like I can travel around the world to do jiu-jitsu. And it was crazy. Like, I went to London and I went to Abu Dhabi. I went to Sweden.
Wow.
Actually, today I was supposed to leave for Abu Dhabi today.
Wow. And you will. This is going to be a few months delayed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so lucky I got everything to be my hotel. I was able to get canceled without, because they were going to charge me $350 to cancel my hotel. And then my plane ticket, I was kind of sweating it a little bit because I didn't get the insurance. And but so they've allowed me to have a voucher till August 31st. So
that's
hopefully
good.
they'll have everything set up. And
but that's
it's
awesome.
just been
It's
crazy.
allotted you to do things you thought you'd never do.
Oh yeah. And to think that it all started with going through, like losing my leg.
Yeah. I think it started before that.
And then
even, I sometimes think think back to stuff I went through when I was a kid and how it pertains to my life today. If we can look at things when we're going through them, like, okay, this sucks, but I am going to get something out of this. Right?
Yep.
So talk a little bit about Be Bold and what type of person is a good fit for Be Bold.
Actually, everyone is a good fit for Be Bold.
Okay.
We don't have a definition of disability.
Okay.
Like I said before, I was more disabled when I had two legs.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you're an introvert, that could be very disabling to a person. And if you could come to our class and you get something out of it, then we did our job.
Right.
I think
who's in your class now?
As
little ones, older ones?
That's one thing that's, we have a little bit of everybody. We have some of our Parkinson's people come to my class.
Cool.
And then I brag about trials. I think that we're probably the only gym in North America that has multiple amputees training out of it. Besides myself, we have 3 other amputees that come in and have memberships at trials. Nice. And then there's a set of twins that are 8 years old, and one of the twins is an above the knee amputee, and he comes in to Little Champs classes now.
So we've got to say that they'll find a spot for you.
Oh yeah, we've got a place. Anybody's got a spot at trials. That's for sure.
That's awesome. So Rustin, where can people connect with you? I know you're doing some speaking, correct?
I don't have anything set up as of now, but I have in the past. We do our Be Bold adaptive boxing classes on Saturdays at trials at 8:45 when we do have the classes there. What I've been doing to compensate for that is just kind of doing some Facebook Live on our Facebook page. And then we also have on Instagram as well. But yeah, just still trying to stay connected with everybody and just keeping everybody moving and adapting too. I think that's one of the biggest things is that we're not able to do things the same way that we did it before. And, like I said, we're people with physical disabilities are pretty good at adapting to things. And so it's just another thing, way to adapt. You can get a workout in shape or form, especially in these days where you've got Google, YouTube. I mean, you can find a workout to do of any type of ability. And that's one thing that's nice is that that there's no excuse on that end of it. Like, I didn't know what to do. It doesn't, usually work.
All you gotta do is open up Facebook and someone's doing a live workout these days.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I really like watching the adaptive people come up with their workouts.
I bet.
And then what I try to do for mine too is I try to make it for everybody. So if you are an amputee, you could do it. If you are able-bodied, you can do it. If you're in a wheelchair, you can do it. But we're just going to find different ways to adapt. And that's what life's all about, in my opinion, is just learning how to adapt to what is thrown at you. And where people have the biggest problems is when they don't want to adapt or they don't.
Well, I think that you're, a stellar example of having to adapt and pretty much a professional adapter at this point, in my opinion.
I call it MacGyverisms, like you learn how to do MacGyver stuff.
Yeah. And so on Facebook, if people want to follow you, it's Rustin Hughes, correct?
Yes.
And on Instagram, what's your handle on Instagram?
Rustin Hughes as well.
Rustin Hughes. And then definitely connect with Trials, right? Then they're on Instagram and they're also on Facebook as well, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Be Bold?
Be Bold. Yeah, I have a Be Bold page on each of those as well, on Instagram and Facebook. And I have a Rustin Hughes adaptive athlete page as well.
Awesome. So you can connect with Rustin anywhere there and reach out to him and be friends, because I promise you, you will be motivated on a daily basis. I know that I am. Thank you, Rustin. Thank you so much for sharing your story for today. I know that, it'll get out there and it'll touch just who needs to be touched by it. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. If the naturally inspired movement makes sense to you, let's do this together and transform the medical model and help people take charge of their health. Learn more about how you can join the Naturally Inspired movement by going to naturallyinspiredadvocate.com or call me at 970-475-4862.